everyone, I'm Joshua Hanlon here in Portland, Oregon at Bricks Cascade 2018, and I'm joined by Boone Langston.
Hey everybody, welcome to Portland for this year's con.
And we are about to start our tour of the beautiful show floor that you see out here below us. There's all these incredible builds laid out, and we're going to give you a look at every build, as much detail as we can, and show you what is on display here at Bricks Cascade 2018. So let's take a closer look. So we're going to start right here with this big roller coaster build that isn't running right now, but I think we have the builder back here. So if you don't mind, just a 30-second overview of this build here and kind of how it came together.
Sure, but this would be a lot more spectacular in about 10 minutes.
Are you going to get it working? We'll come back at some point over the weekend and definitely do a more in-depth video with it running.
So the 30-second, 2-minute overview. This roller coaster, in some form or other, has actually first showed in 2002. So it's been around for a long time. This is the third major revision of it. It hasn't shown previously since 2009. We really got it down working very well, despite the fact that there's exploded pieces all over. And there's about 20,000 bricks, no glue, no modified parts, 100% Lego. Takes 12 minifigures on the ride of a lifetime.
There you go.
I love the Tron guy with a mustache in the queue for the ride.
There is a little bit of everyone over there.
Well, that's great. Yeah, like I said, we'll definitely stop by and catch you throughout the week at some point later in the weekend and see it all working and everything. So this is just a taste of the very cool coaster here. And then it looks like next to that we've got kind of the roller coaster theme park area here of the show.
So these were built by Ben Kahn, and one of the most interesting things I think here is the double-decker carousel. So that is based on the latest official carousel that was released by Lego, but he's added a whole second tier and another group of animals that are unique to this double-tier carousel.
I love the one animal he has there is like the Rock Raiders monster, I think, from the old classic Rock Raiders line. A really cool theme that I know a lot of people love, so I like that. It's cool, some of the animals he decided to throw in there. I think some steampunk style stuff he's done and all sorts of different sort of themes that he's covered with his different amusement park rides. It's really cool stuff. And here we've got some builders still setting up. So we're recording this Friday night of the show. So tomorrow, Saturday morning is when all the public will come in. So you'll still see some people setting up here and there and getting everything finalized.
So this entire section of train here is by one builder, Raymond Brown. And I talked with Raymond earlier and told him that I think my favorite part of this build is this glass roof on the train station here. I've seen it at a couple shows, and it's definitely a neat technique.
Mm-hmm. The curved is just a really cool, the way they do that, it's very recognizable as like a train station. That's something you expect from that. I like that a lot. Then a lot of train track there. This is the first of many train displays, train track setups that you're going to see on the tours. We show you everything here. And this has a lot going on.
I said that this looks like it must be one of the most dangerous hobbies you could possibly have. And that minifigure is really getting the ride of his life there.
Wow, that's crazy. You can definitely make sure you get a shot of that, John, of the minifig whipping around there. I love that. That's some like extreme winter sports there. Very cool. And then a nice little sort of a log jam river setup there, and then like the cart moving through the countryside. Here's movie. This is like a Western movie sort of trading post. I've mentioned before how much I love the Fort Legorado and that whole kit and everything. So this is definitely in that same vein of building like the Western fort here. I like this. A little more build out, a little more bulky here. I think that's really cool. And a Western town here with some nice, you have the hotel, the kind of stereotypical, all the different buildings you need in your Western town. Check out this tiny steam engine here.
Oh wow, that is really great at that scale to pull off kind of that look in that scale is impressive.
It's almost like a museum piece with the gates around it there. I like how he kind of set the display up. And I believe that was done by Jacob Sadovich, I think is how you pronounce his name, who was the fan designer of the Lego Ship in a Bottle Ideas set. So we'll see that his original design later in the tour. But shout out to Jacob there with that build there.
This plane here actually reminds me, I told you a story about the fire plane in the 24-hour live stream, and this reminds me of that. I don't know if you remember that story, but I love these kinds of planes and the double propellers there. I really like the white, red, black color scheme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and all the tiling, anything that's all tiled and slopes like that, I think is really cool. It gives it a very nice, sleek look. So that's really awesome. Here's a whole treehouse setup. One of my favorite things to do at these shows, and we cover a lot of shows, so you see a lot of the same stuff. But one thing I always like seeing the differences in is the way people do trees, because there's 1,000 varieties of Lego trees and ways to do them. So it's always interesting to see how this person's gone for like a mix of like the round and like 2x4 pieces to kind of give some texture to the trunk. I like that.
Yeah, it's a really nice look. One of my friend's daughters, Ren, was here, and she said her favorite part of this was the kid dressed up as a bumblebee climbing up to the treehouse. So we got the collectible minifig there worked into this build as a child in costume.
Mm-hmm. Next to that, Vietnam rice patties. Very cool. Shout out to all the Beyond the Brick fans in Vietnam. I was just there a couple weeks ago and met up with a bunch of really awesome fans there and had a great time. I saw a lot of rice patties, so that looks very accurate. I think that's a great little build there.
And that was built by Daniel. He's a member of the Port Lug here. A really great guy, and we'll see some other builds by him around the convention here.
Awesome. Then here's a big Ninjago-inspired layout. You got the river there, kind of the pagoda in the top left. One thing that stands out here is that train design, which is very unique.
Yeah, a dragon train. Man, they've got a lot of little tiny cheese wedge bricks on that to sort of pull off that dragon scale texture. A really neat technique on that train. I'd love to see it running around, hopefully tomorrow.
And next to that, we've got, I think, there's this kind of signpost with a lot of information here. I believe this is a giant Boy Scout summer camp. So you see basically everything you can expect from a summer camp all in one giant layout here. You've got a lot of different tent areas. You've got sort of water for canoeing and fishing. What else catches your eye here?
One of the things that I love about this build is the water. I was walking around with my brother, and he was talking about all the different ways that Lego creators emulate water, and this is a good one. The other is the little Lego tag on each of these orange tents. He said to me, "Are these real Lego tents?" And I said, "Well, I think so." And as soon as we saw that Lego tag, I was like, how cool is that? Such an iconic little teeny tiny detail on these tents.
Mm-hmm. I really like that. And then in the back there, you see like all the eating taking place. Some of my favorite Lego parts are like food pieces. So it's all the different food pieces that Lego has made I think are really cool. And so seeing like whenever there's a big banquet laid out sort of thing, I think it's cool to look at all the different food pieces.
I think if there's one thing that I could do at this Boy Scout summer camp, it would be the zip line. I would love to just go back and forth on the zip line.
Always a lot of fun there. Here's some tents. I think. Okay, so the builder incorporated herself there with the green face as she struggles through the zip line. I like that. And these tents here, I think, are from the old like Extreme Sport line. I think kind of throwback there. So, the Extreme Team line. So you got the tan from Indiana Jones in the back left. Okay, the black came from Adventures, yeah. Duplo. Wow. So you got all different themes represented here. You kind of mined all the different tents Lego's made over the years. Cool. Mm-hmm. I like it. Well, great layout. Thank you. And the next door, it looks like we've got a British Railways sort of setup here. I like the little hill they built with the bridge over it.
Look at this green, this old steam. It looks like a steam roller, but like an antique steam roller. That's a pretty neat little item in there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then here from I'm trying to remember the name of the book, the children's book. It's Mike. Oh, something in the steam shovel. I'm blanking on it, but that was a great.
I was thinking of the one that You're Not My Mother, where the bird goes around to all the different things thinking it's their mother, and he ends up at one of these steam, backhoes, and it realizes that it's not his mother.
Yeah, see, it brings up a lot of memories for a lot of different people. I like that. So that's the first kind of rectangle of builds there. Let's move on over here, and we'll try to do this in a way to make sure we don't miss anything. Our goal is to always show as much as possible. So I think this is the superheroes sort of pop culture section we're entering here. So you'll recognize a lot of this stuff from that. Is this the new Buster kit, or is that a custom build?
I can't tell.
Yeah. I haven't seen the new Hulkbuster kit enough to know if that is the exact one.
But he's attacking the dog from... What is that dog from? Is that the Doctor Who dog? Who's that dog? Who's afraid of a puppy? I recognize that dog.
I don't know. I'm not. This is always the section where my commentary is the worst because I don't recognize most things from pop culture, and so I always struggle through this and leave it to the people in the comments to correct me.
All right, I'll see what I can do. I'll be half and half because I really like DC, and I am just kind of somewhat interested in Marvel. So
now you're gonna have all the Marvel fanboys upset at you.
That's why I said somewhat interested in Marvel. I mean, I love Marvel.
So let's see, what do we have here? This build is Hogwarts versus Sauron. So this is like a Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings mix there. That's very unique.
This is actually my...
Oh, here we go. Nice. So you can provide some good commentary on this.
Yeah, this is actually my Batmobile. It's based on the Speedwagon from the Batman movie, but I built it in like sort of a UCS scale, and it has the keychain Batman inside the cockpit there, and then a remote control Batmobile based on one of the remote control sets that came out in the late 90s or early 2000s, but a completely new Batman themed overhaul.
There you go.
And this coming up next here is my friend Ryan built this. I think it's really cool. He wanted to do a take on the conveyor belt system that Batman uses in the Lego movie, in the Lego Batman movie, for all of his costumes. And he wanted more Batman costumes than are available in minifigures. So he created some based on other themes and whatnot. You can see classic space Batman is coming around here down on the bottom, and we got Robin spinning on the gangway. And the lights are all, in this set, the lights are all official Lego lights, and it's all Lego power function running this set.
Love it. I think my favorite is the blue colonial one there, the Batman with like the old like musket. I think it's really great.
Colonial Batman.
Here's some more superhero stuff here. We've got Ant-Man battle. So I like what you see with the kind of build up bricks, so it's like making normal size bricks massive, and then it gives that bigger scale. I like that.
This one was built by Andy Olsen or Davey Olsen. Maybe they worked on it together. Anyway, this is based on a scene from, I believe, Spider-Man Homecoming, where he's pulling together the Staten Island ferry that has been cut in half. And I talked a moment ago about all the different methods for building water, and in some cases it's as simple as dumping blue brick on the table.
That works. It gives the effect. Here's Star Labs. So I think this is like the DC Flash, Green Arrow areas here. So if you watch those TV shows, I think you'll recognize that.
Yeah, I remember when Andy was building this, he had to put a post on Facebook asking for these angled panels, these angled window panels up at the top there, and it actually does a pretty decent job replicating the Star Labs as you would see it on the screen, but they're very old pieces and they're not terribly easy to find, and he crowdsourced them on Facebook.
There you go. Also Facebook is all sorts of possibilities. Metallo there, I don't think I'm familiar with that. It appears to be like a Superman villain.
It must be powered by kryptonite.
Right, he like shoots kryptonite out of his chest or something. I'm sure someone in the comments can give us more information. And then Lobo riding a space hog here. This is an awesome build. Like so many cool techniques and pieces used. You look at like the kind of connector pieces there for the hair and everything to give it the angle and like the wave in the hair.
And the engines on the side of this thing, when I look at this, I can imagine seeing it sort of fly through the air and hearing the sound that this kind of machine would make. It's kind of a neat look.
Mm-hmm. Then here is the Arkham Halfway House, and so this is, I believe, all of the villains from Batman in their little habitat areas there, trying to improve themselves, probably failing.
Rehabilitate and get back into productive service in the community, and we've all seen how that turns out in the DC universe.
I do like this though. You look at all the different scenes there and everything, like the Riddler and the Joker, and Eraserhead, everyone's favorite Batman villain.
Is that Bruce Wayne in the top?
In the top right. It looks like it. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Who builds the bugs? Is it Jason that builds the bugs?
Yes, I think like the Scarabs are from.
He's bugged everyone else's mocks around the convention.
So yeah, you'll probably see those on different builds throughout the show. Here's a Justice League build. And then here's a very is that a Batman tank thing there? So it's interesting.
I think that looks to me like, well, it just looks very similar to me to one of the Nexo Knight tanks.
You're right.
Is sort of a Batman take on that. If I were to guess, that's sort of what we got going on there.
Oh, and here's the battle in Themyscira. If I'm pronouncing that right, no one knows how to pronounce the home of Wonder Woman there, but this is if you've seen the movie, I think the scene where the German soldiers first land and they swing down from the cliffside, which was a very cool scene. This is very interesting. I haven't seen a lot of Wonder Woman builds, even though the movie was very popular and there was a lot of cool stuff in it. I would like to see more of it, mostly because I want to see more World War I builds, and so if I have to do that through Wonder Woman, then that's how it works.
All right, there's your task, everybody. If you want to be on Beyond the Brick, build a Wonder Woman mock for Joshua.
Yes, that's true. Your chances will go up significantly. And then the Defenders there, I think, is that a new Marvel, I want to say, TV show? Something like that? One of the new superhero TV shows.
Yeah, I'm really into Batmobiles. The 89 Batmobile is one of my favorites. I think this is a decent job that James did here on this one. And it looks like his own take on the Hulkbuster. And that does look a little bit different than the one we saw over there. So perhaps that one is the official Hulkbuster, and this is James' mock.
There you go. Yeah, no, either way, those are so cool. Like just the red and gold like that, the coloring and everything. Those Hulkbuster builds are really neat. Got some Godzilla here. Then a bunch of different Spider-Man scenes fighting different villains, Sandman and all his different villains there. And then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like all those.
Look at this. Coraline's Pink Palace Apartments. That is beautiful.
Thank you. I'm still working on it.
It looks like you've got a lot of lighting inside there.
I'm currently working on the lighting. I decided it needed lighting so you could see the interior. There's a lot of interior detail.
Yeah. Is this based on a real building, or you just kind of came up with this in your mind?
Oh, this is based on the Pink Palace Apartments from Coraline, from the movie Coraline.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Good to know. Thank you. Yeah, it's a beautiful build.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Coraline is from Leica, the studio that made Frankenweenie and we got to go back. We got to edit.
Correct.
She should be doing this.
So yeah, if you want to, I guess, a little more background.
Paranorman, Box Trolls, and Kubo and the Two Strings would be the other films. Yeah.
Gotcha. Good to know. There you go.
Frankenweenie was Tim Burton. Okay. Who did not direct Coraline? No. But I do know something about Coraline. They Might Be Giants had a song in Coraline, correct? Okay, there. I have the spinning piano. I just had to redeem myself with one Coraline fact.
I've never heard of it, so you're doing better than I am.
Fantastic.
So that build to the right of that is very cool, but I have no clue what's happening here as well.
No, not again.
There's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. See, I told you this is why the pop culture section, I just don't recognize any of it, and people just get upset at me in the comments. But there you go. Here's a trophy. This is Predator. So Predator and Alien right here go together well. I know this is Blair Archer. We showed this last year. I have a more in-depth video with this. If people want to check it out, definitely look for that on the channel. Very cool build. Is always a highlight of the show here. Just excellent. Next to this, I believe you were involved in this beautiful display.
Yeah, I was. This is the stacks as we interpreted it based on the description in the books from Ready Player One, and we also have a more detailed video from Rose City Comic Con here on Beyond the Brick.
Definitely. So yeah, go check that out, and you can see all the fun little details and everything. There's a lot going on in that build. Next to that, we've got a Tron build. So I don't think any relation to the Tron Ideas set that is coming out soon. This is just a fan-made model. And very cool, though. The builds are very well done. I love how he incorporated all the trans clear, like orange and blue, with the black to create that setting.
So this is Lige Armstrong, and I think probably one of his more popular builds are the big Tigger and the Winnie the Pooh bust. So if you've seen those, you're familiar with Lige.
Mm-hmm.
Very diverse builder, can do a whole lot of cool stuff.
I love these cars down here from, well, I'm a huge Jurassic Park fan, and I love seeing that Jeep, that 90s Jeep recreated in such a great looking scale there. Development.
I know, the rest it's so good. I like how, I've always liked how the iconic vehicle from that show is an airport ladder truck.
Yeah,
it's like, it's so good. So Sherlock here, I think I've seen one or two of these in the past. Different people have kind of tackled this build. It's always really cool. And you look at the level of detail on the left side there, you can show that John is like the smiley face he put on the wall and everything. So it's just like an incredible level of detail inside this build here. If you're a fan of the Sherlock show, I'm sure you'll recognize that right away. And then coming around, we got a Stargate build and the Evil Dead cabin.
I really like how Corey sort of nailed the curved edges of this, similar to an Airstream, an old iconic trailer. I think it's inspiring how he got that look down. And then we got a couple of Enterprise-related things there. The Enterprise A from, let's see, Star Trek II and beyond. No, I guess they didn't get the Enterprise A until the end of 4. They got, I don't know. People in the comments are going to be like, no, it was 5.
Clearly, how could you not know that?
Yeah, so, and then I love the Snoopy, where they've dressed Snoopy up like Kirk and given Snoopy's house the warp nacelle there. I think that's kind of a
I do like that, yeah. This burning down the RV, or I'm not sure exactly what is happening here, but it's a lot of scenes of vehicles burning. So, yeah. Okay, we'll move on from that. I'm pretty sure that same build was here last year, and I had no clue what it was then as well.
Oh, that's good. I do like Mario and Sonic there, built inside television sets, and the Nintendo controller. That definitely, those games remind me of my childhood, so a lot of love of those memories.
And I think we've got a Weird Al build here, white and nerdy on the.
Yeah, on
I like
Segway.
that on the Segway. That's pretty awesome. You got Deadpool and Vault Boy in the back there.
Qbert, we're gonna call out Qbert.
It's very cool. Fallout Shelter cafeteria. And here's an Ender's Game build. So if you are a fan of Ender's Game, that's pretty cool. You'll recognize that scene. Ian Heath, some of his characters here, like Austin Powers and Dr. Evil.
I love the holodeck from Star Trek The Next Generation there. They've done a great job replicating that black and yellow. It's such a stark contrast. Right next to that, we've got a couple builds from Stranger Things. Mm-hmm. So there's 11, and then, of course, Barb sitting alone on the diving board.
And not to be missed also in the back is the disaster artist there. I think that's the iconic shot from that movie that I think a lot of people are familiar with. So yeah, Ian's work is very recognizable, and he always does an excellent job.
I love that sort of video game robot there. I'm not Kung Fury. Okay.
I think it's from the movie Kung Fury. I never got around to watching that, but I heard there was a lot of crazy stuff in there, and it's apparently the case.
Oh, look at this Scrooge McDuck brickhead. That's cool. He's got a little bag of money. Nice. And then we got Molly Patton's Neighborhood of Make-Believe from Mr. Rogers. Mm-hmm. This is another thing that just takes me back to my childhood. I absolutely love Rogers, and I think she's done a really splendid little job with the Neighborhood of Make-Believe there.
Totally, yeah. That's the colors and everything stand out right away. That's very neat. In the back here is Bill Ward's Kermit. So I think he's had that build around for a few years, but it's always cool to see that at shows. And then moving on down the line, this is Kevin Warner, the first of, I think, several builds that we'll probably point out of his, but Tomb Raider, so just based on the Tomb Raider movie that just came out, very cool scene he built here, and he even built the lettering into the cliff is such a cool idea, and the way he did the trees and everything, and the waterfall actually moves, so we'll definitely have a more in-depth video on this build for sure, but I love this. Back to the Future stuff here.
We got the time train from when Doc and Clara come back to the future after having lived in the Wild West for a number of years, and meet meet Marty and Jennifer at the end of the movie and fly away in this crazy thing.
There you go. And several scenes from the Jungle Cruise. I love this. The boat design is really cool.
And we got Mickey is the pilot of the lead Jungle Cruise boat there.
It's amazing how much they packed into like a small sort of vignette type build. They packed so much detail in, and we've been talking about the different ways you can build water with Lego. You look at how they did that is, I think, a pretty cool effect on there. So that's really neat.
These ray guns are mine. I built the gray one based on the minifig accessory from the Series 17 Retro Spaceman.
There you go. Yeah. So I like those. What were the inspirations for the other ray guns there?
I just like sort of retro space kind of ray blasters, and the red, and actually all three of these I built each in one session of just sort of like digging through brick and building what I could in a couple of hours.
If you're dual wielding the red and yellow together, it'd be good, like Beyond the Brick ray guns.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely. Let's make that happen in the future.
I think we should. Here's a hat, mountain scene hat. So some of the custom, like third-party hat companies that people have built stuff onto. Cosplay hangout.
The cosplay hangout. That's kind of fun. Looks like a little bar there with all the people dressed up. Maybe they just finished up at the Comic-Con and headed over for a bite to eat. And
It definitely does change. Whenever a big Comic-Con or something comes through a city, I think it definitely changes the landscape of the local eating areas.
Yeah. So this is also Blair Archer's. He built the Xenomorph head, and this is sort of an apartment complex where all the villains from the Batman universe live. So Joker's up at the top there, and Poison Ivy below him, and that's actually, John, if you hold the camera up and look straight down, you can see this whole area is actually designed to look like the Joker's face.
That is very cool, yeah.
And Two-Face's apartment is half black and half white.
I like that. And then it's like a Deadpool's imagination. And I think that brings us back to where we started here in this whole rectangle. So I think we'll keep moving then. Let's go back this way, actually. So we make sure, because this way we can make sure we hit everything, make sure we do it in order as much as possible. So we'll go back and hit this section and then make our way around. Don't think I've ever seen this at a Lego show before. It's not directly Lego related, but it sort of is this like 3D photo booth where you can step inside there and get photos taken of you from all different angles, and then they'll basically make like a figure of you here at the booth. And so you can do this all at the show.
And they'll do a full body, sort of replica of you, or you can get just a minifig scale head and put that on a minifig.
So it's very unique. Those I'm still not sure what the heads on the minifig like that. They're still kind of. I'm still getting used to that. I don't know.
I don't know if I will get used to that, but I think it's a novel idea for someone who really wants their actual face on a minifig. I like the idea of having a face that you built that, is meant to resemble you.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start here with this area. So this is like the battle, and I think we'll have some castle and pirate stuff all around here, starting with a zombie apocalypse. Some very stylish vehicles there. I like the purple limousine type vehicle. I think it's pretty.
Chili's. We don't have Chili's in Oregon anymore, so.
Oh, you don't? That's unfortunate.
I really miss it. I'm glad to see Chili's in this mech, but it makes me want some chips and queso dip.
There you go. So here is next to that is Warhammer 40K. So this is a big battle scene happening here. I think this is the closest I'm going to get to an actual World War I battle here at this show. So I'll take what I can get here. It's still a cool war scene going on. I like the tank especially.
Ooh, what is that? Is that barbed wire an official piece? I like that. That's a neat look.
I'm not sure the way it's connected there. I don't know if that is an official piece. That doesn't look like the normal like round barbed wire that Lego released several years back. So that might be custom.
Well, it's a cool piece. It's a good looking piece because it reads well to me in a Lego mock here.
Keep moving down here. You got Scorpion Squadron, the Delta base. Some nice planes here. There's a landing ship tank there, so dropping all sorts of stuff off. I like that. And then some more tanks. This one is very nice with like the 4 separate tread areas, the Goliath. And then a big build here that I believe we've covered previously at 1 or 2 shows in the past. So definitely, if you want to see more of this, there's a lot going on. Look for that video. This is Operation Sand Snake, and I believe it's like the Germans and the Russians attacking each other here. So the Germans defending in the trenches with the Russians coming ashore. It's kind of a futuristic battle there, with all sorts of explosions and things happening. The snow build really stands out to me here with like the white mech and then all of the snow around the street there.
Yeah, that's neat.
I really like that, yeah.
Yeah, look at how the snow is sort of like creeping over the edge of the road. That's effective.
Mm-hmm. Building, nature like that looks good is a very difficult thing to do with Lego, and can take a lot of practice and messing around with the bricks. So when it looks good, it's very impressive. A little island warfare build there. Coming down here, we've got this is the Ardennes Forest and Christmas Eve in 1944. So
David was telling me earlier, this is David Geddes. He and his team built a giant replica of the wall from Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. So if you've seen pictures of that, this is one of those builders. He was telling me that each of these trees were in that Game of Thrones build, and they used them for this as well. And each of these trees, I think he said over 1,000 pieces in just the tree. So you can kind of imagine Travis bricks covered in cheese wedges and sort of all tied together there, and I believe he said over 1,000, maybe 1,200 bricks just in that tree.
Yeah, that's insane, but it also adds a really nice level of detail with all of those cheese wedges, so it turns out nice. Here's, I think, an alien-inspired build, so you can see the aliens coming out and attacking the humans there, fighting for their lives. And then next to that is a G.I. Joe-inspired build.
This is another one that takes me back to my childhood. I immediately came here and wanted to find my favorite character, which was Sergeant Slaughter. And if I had to guess, I think he's probably the one back by the road with sort of that, that park ranger style hat on. Mm-hmm. I could be wrong, but
I was like the colors with these builds, like the blue, I think is like a really nice contrast. You don't see that type of colors in like a military build usually, so.
Right, yeah. But it does, these like, Cobra forces in the blue, they look like they're sort of translating a real thing, but in this imaginary world. So that is a neat way to do this.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on down from there, it's like a whale spaceship. So there's like weapons on top, but it looks like a whale, which is very unique and very impressive.
I remember the first time I saw this in a picture, I think it was around Shiptember. I think that's a Shiptember build. But I thought, wow, what a neat idea. Take this thing where everyone's building spaceships and do something just a little bit different here. And we have sort of a whale-inspired spaceship.
I like that. Shout out to Christian Benito who built that build. So then you've got sort of a medieval kingdom happening here. All different stuff. Carnage going on in the background. And then starting into like the castle section here. So you've got a couple builders, I think, feverishly working to finish up. Almost. You're adding the final touches. This is very cool. Very impressive. I'm sure we'll stop by later and have a more in-depth video with this for sure.
The texture on that castle is really something else. Great job, you guys.
Yes. The island rock build and everything is very cool. Next to that is Palace in Wonderland, Paul Hetherington. We've showed Paul's work, I don't even know how many times now on the channel. He just always brings incredible stuff, and this certainly joins the rest of his work as an amazing build. You look at all of the details here, there's just so much going on. Basically, the story is that this palace is where everyone is partying nonstop as the world's kind of coming apart at the edges, as you can see here. So there's so many details with the pool and everything, and then like the gold and the sand green in the palace itself. It's crazy.
I love how the contrast he's drawn between sort of the edge of the world here that is very like kind of mechanical and then the just sort of extravagant beauty of the palace on top.
And the next to that, we've got some nice tree build there. Some of this architecture is really cool, like the older style wooden buildings. A totally trans-clear Lego castle. I like that. Here is, we mentioned earlier, Jacob's build of the ship in the bottle, the fan designer. So this is the original fan design here, which you can see if you've owned the set that Lego actually released or have seen it, then this is very different. Mostly it's just much bigger, is I think how it mostly is different from the kit.
It's kind of one of those things that's incredible to look at and think somebody imagined this and then executed it. And I just think it's really cool.
Mm-hmm. The Wayfarer's Rest, so it's like an inn right here, again by Kevin Warner. I really like this build. I think the roof is nice, like the pieces kind of sloping down there. And then Dollhouse Castle in the back. It's another really beautiful, wonderfully done castle layout. This is visiting the neighbors, so it looks like you've got like the blue king and castle on the left, and then the red king and queen and their troops are coming to visit in what looks to be a very peaceful meeting. So, not a lot of war happening here.
There's a couple, I'll talk more about water. There's a couple impressive things going on with the water here. We've got the waterfall and then this sort of crashing surf where they've used these, one by one clear plates and piled them up into this great shape that sort of emulates the crashing surf, and added the clear transparent there to sort of emulate the bubbles as the water hits the earth. That's just such a neat technique there.
I like that, and that's the kind of thing that I feel like you can't do very well with, like the parts dumping that a lot of people do, just kind of throwing all the studs down. And so when you actually, that takes a lot more time, obviously, because you're stacking them all individually, but you can do really cool shapes like that and add more effects.
Right.
And then here is a scene. You've got, I think, smog on all of the gold down there. So you've got different sort of like Hobbit, Lord of the Rings inspired scenes.
Yeah, on the other hand, parts dumping does work well for a pile of gold. That looks pretty good.
It really does. Little castle here. Now a massive layout that is the opposite of the peaceful encounter we saw over there with I don't even know how many factions battling it out. You've got like the ice section, the traditional castle, like the Vikings, whatever is happening there in the lava pit.
Guy getting spewed up out of the volcano there.
And then like the pink ferry section. So yeah, everybody's fighting in this section. And then you get sort of an islander, ships, nice, some of these nice throwback to like the Pirates, Imperial Islanders, some of my favorite themes. I really like that. And then Metalbeard here on the top of the tower. On the Imperial outpost there. You even got some of the old Forest Men, Robin Hood guys on this ship coming in. Very cool. And I think next door is a big, I think a Civil War, like American Civil War layout here with all different troops from different parts of the country. And so different uniforms and everything. He's tried to diversify that. I like this here. Cool battle layout. What do we have? Let's see. Coming around the corner, I think this is pretty much where we started then. Yeah, we're back to the zombie apocalypse. So I think then we can continue on to the next section. Briefly to the left of us, I think this is a Lego physics layout. So basically, I think it's sort of very educational, like science-based exhibits for the public here. If I'm not mistaken, yeah, I think that's what all of that is.
They've got one over there that kids can stand in front of, and the Technic arm sort of comes down, and then a digital readout tells how tall the child is. It's kind of a cool little thing.
Mm-hmm.
All sorts of fun things you can do there. So now entering into the classic section and then Bionicle. So these crater, moon, base plate plates here are always sought after and very popular, displaying some of the classic space sets there. And then some fire police, some of the many iterations of the fire and stations and police stations that Lego has released over the years.
So this shell station back here was the very first Lego set that I ever had as a child. I remember putting it together with my dad, and the catalog that came with that actually inspired me to fall in love with the space stuff, but by the time I was old enough to get those sets, they didn't sell them anymore, and I had to move on to things like Space Police and Futuron and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That is a great first set to experience. You know, I grew up in the sad, like, early 2000s of Lego, which I think we all know what was being released then, you know, Jack Stone, that sort of thing. So my first set was not nearly as good as that.
Yeah, I still have some of the shell logo and lettering are stickers, and I still have some of those bricks that have those original stickers from that set.
There you go. And then is it Blacktron inspired, like yellow and black? Was that the name?
Yeah, that's the original Blacktron, yeah. And it looks like these are, mocks. So part of the classic here is sort of builders' new takes on classic stuff. So these are, like neo-classic kind of thing, but with a Blacktron one here.
Mm-hmm. And then this build here, there's just a lot going on, and I really have no clue. It's like Star Wars characters, but there's also like a colorful castle and a wall, and they're sort of on like an island.
And there's a xenomorph.
It's pretty crazy. There's Darth Vader with a selfie stick and a panda.
I would never have noticed the panda because he's standing in a group of stormtroopers. Oh, that's funny.
I have no idea what's happening here, but it's pretty great.
We got a couple stormtroopers getting married. Wow.
There's like C-3PO on the electric guitar. I like it.
Well, at least it made us laugh. Oh, there's a sandcastle on the beach.
There is.
That mock just keeps giving. That's the mock that keeps on giving all year long, Clark.
And then here is the Bionicle section. So if you look up here, we've got a lenticular mosaic, which is built with cheese slopes. So it changes, the image changes depending on which way you look at it. And then lots of cool, here's kind of an interesting, I like this one here with the extra accessories added to the Bionicle characters there to kind of flesh out the scene a little bit. I think that's one of the things that I always struggle with, and I think we've definitely gotten flack over the years for not covering enough Bionicle, is I feel like when it's just the character standing there, it's not always that interesting, but if when you add sort of accessories and flesh out the scene a little bit, to me it becomes much more interesting.
Yeah, and this here is built with looks like a lot of Technic pieces, and I suppose some Bionicle pieces in there, but this is a similar thing where you can start to see a story unfolding here as this robot maybe puts himself back together.
Yeah, that's the Bionicle Some Assembly Required, so that's Some Assembly Required is the theme of Bricks Cascade this year, and so I think that's kind of playing off of the whole theme of the convention. I like this little spider here. That's a cool design. The tires and everything.
And the white stag, man, that's cool. We have a building downtown that has this giant light up sign that was originally white stag, and so when you're driving downtown you see this shape of Oregon and the white stag lit up, and then for years the company was purchased by Made in Oregon, so for years it said Made in Oregon, and now it just says Portland, Oregon, so it no longer is an advertisement for a company, but it is just sort of an icon for the city of Portland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's a great design there. Very cool build. Then we move down some more smaller Bionicle characters here. I like the one in the back there that has used the planet pieces, the blue planet pieces, as I guess that would be sort of the eyes of the creature.
And it's got Yoda's head on backward.
It does.
Is that from an alarm clock or something? It's like a giant Yoda head. Huh.
I have no idea, but that's something. And then little miniature, sort of smaller Star Wars characters, kind of a combination of Bionicle and system pieces.
Oh, and I got to point out the Boba Fett Slave One ship that's built completely out of Bionicle. Mm-hmm. That's kind of a neat idea. And it looks, is that the Millennium Falcon there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got a couple Star Wars ships built out of Bionicle pieces. That's, I think, the first time I've seen, sort of iconic ships built out of Bionicle pieces. A neat idea.
I do like that, yeah. Got Green Arrow in the back here. And then a few more Bionicle characters in a mosaic, I think finishes out this section for us. So we'll keep moving on up here to architecture. And check out, there's a lot of really impressive stuff here. So this whole beginning section is, I believe, all done by Archlug, which is a group of builders that do architecture-inspired models, and it's all based on the book. I think it's Dinotopia, if I'm not mistaken. You can show, yeah, there's the book right there. So this was featured, they had the whole thing, all the collaborators were at BrickCon in Seattle last year, and we did a whole long video. I think the video ended up a half an hour or something crazy like that. So if you want a really in-depth look at these and kind of each builder talking about what they did on each section, then you should definitely check out that video from BrickCon last year, because it's really fascinating. The whole story behind this and everything, and the book that they based it off is really cool. So definitely recommend for you to check all of that out. Next to that is a Alice Finch built micro build. So her micro stuff is just incredible. Everything she does with Lego is incredible, but her micro stuff is really cool as well. Shout out to the Lego Architecture Idea book that she has coming out soon here. Definitely check that out. I think it's supposed to be released in the summer of 2018. So you'll be able to see lots of cool models like this featured in there. It's great work. Then some more architecture here. We've got a classic cinema. I like these little house rooms here. It's American kitchens throughout the years. That's really cool. Then is this a real building in Portland here?
It is, yeah. That's the Portland building, and the statue on the front of the building there, the woman holding the trident, that statue is named Portlandia, and I believe it is. I heard once that it is the second largest copper statue in the world, but I don't know if that's really true. The first being the Statue of Liberty,
Okay.
or maybe it's the second largest copper statue of a person, or the second largest copper statue of a woman, or something like that. So, again, correct me in the comments. But that is the Portland building, and it's a really kind of interesting and strange design. It was this sort of like postmodern thing that was supposed to be really interesting, and there was a lot of backlash when it was built because it was just sort of strange looking. But one of the things I would say about it is that the artist, not the designer of the Lego mock, but the designer of the building, the architecture that designed the building, the sketches were beautiful. And I can see why he wanted to do it based on the sketches that he made. But the building came out looking...
Something was lost in transition there.
A little interesting. But that is a real building.
Okay. Gotcha. Here's Trajan's Market. I like this based on the old Roman market. That's lots of cool pillars and everything there. And then here we've got a whole long GBC. We won't dwell on this because it's the GBC, and when it's not running, it's kind of boring and not that interesting. So definitely, if you want to see more of that, we should have GBC videos from this show or a significant backlog of lots of cool GBC videos on Beyond the Brick that you can check out if you want to see more of those in action. And then you've got, I really like this big red build here. It's almost like a Technic Christmas tree.
So each year in Portland we have just a local event called the Festival of Trees, and we often, members of the Lug or members of the Lego community will come in, and they usually set up sort of a Christmas town and like some train stuff. And because it's the Festival of Trees, they decided this year, well, we better actually bring a tree. So this is the Lego Christmas tree, and various builders have decorated the tree with their own little Christmas ornaments there.
Mm-hmm. I like that. And here's a few things that we've shown videos of in the past, but are always cool to look at, and it's like Technic models that are designed to make these stick like a pen or a Sharpie in there, and they'll do all these cool designs on paper, continually moving around and making circles and stuff.
I do want to just point out quickly Victor's Nissan Xterra there, just because I like Victor and I really like the Nissan Xterra, and I think this is a great looking Technic build here. Very popular car in the Northwest, the Xterra. Okay.
No, that is very, very good build. Then here we've got some kind of camera. I see us there. We've got also then this is like a Chima inspired build in front of it. I'm not sure if that's connected at all to the camera or not. It is, okay. So how does the Chima build connect to the TV?
Well, the Chima robot on the other end is run by a Raspberry Pi. And so the webcam is connected to the Raspberry Pi, and through the network, it's displaying onto the TV.
Gotcha. Interesting. Thank you.
All right, looks like they're turning out.
They are, yes.
Happy to show you more about it.
For sure. We'll stop by. So yeah, I think they're turning the lights out on us here, so we are going to stop the tour at this point and then pick back up tomorrow night and complete showing you everything. Don't worry. We will come back and finish showing you the whole show floor. Okay, Boone and I are back for day 2, part 2 of the tour here. We're going to start with the photography section, but don't worry, we'll get back to everything else in the convention floor that we have not shown you yet. So starting with this photography, you see that Multnomah Falls on the very left there, so obviously iconic sort of Oregon landmark, I would say. That's correct, right, Boone?
Absolutely, yeah. Pretty much everyone from around the world, if they're going to visit this area, they go to Multnomah Falls. It is an icon.
Mm-hmm. So that's all brick built there, and then you've got some great Lego photography following after that. Kevin Warner has some of these. I love his brick built frames, as well as the photographs there. Wonderful. Then you've got a few different photographers here that have variety of kind of Lego in nature sort of photos is generally what this is like. So it's cars or minifigs, Doctor Who there. So it's kind of some of everything going on.
Yeah, I love the dirt on the storm. There's those clone troopers there with the mud. It's just a good look there with the wilderness.
And some more minifig and car photography.
Yeah, these Technic cars with the depth of field there. It just reminds me of an actual photograph from like a car magazine, and they've done it here in Lego. Really neat.
It's like an auto magazine. Yeah, that's really cool. I love like collectible minifigs sort of photography and stuff there. And then here, this screen coming up here on the right, I believe, this is from, there's like a photo booth here at the show that if you get photos taken in there, then they automatically start playing on the screen over here. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we've got these various masks and items that are brick built that you can put over your face and frames and do some fun photos there. That was put on by Brian D'Agostine from Bricks.
Then we get into the mosaic section. So I think we've got something from, I believe it's Battlestar Galactica there. Then Data from Star Trek.
Data was my favorite character from Star Trek The Next Generation. I think I dressed up for him as Halloween when I was in like 3rd or 4th grade.
There you go. Then Flatline. Got Squeeze Box here.
Weird Al.
Yes, the Weird Al. I love the colored like dots added in there. The 1x1 studs are very nice. Emmett all dressed up. And then you've got Wonder Woman here. Very cool. Next to Hulk Smash. And then here's sort of a series of, it appears, kind of smaller mosaic scenes.
I think this is like a quilt. So it was, I believe, a collaborative quilt square build where you bring your quilt square and they put them all together here.
And next to that...
I like the jack. I'm sorry, the jack of... one of those cards there is just almost at first glance I didn't recognize it, and then in passing I was, that's the face of a jack from a playing card.
There you go. Doom triptych here, so I think we've got some characters from Doom. I love the way they built the characters like kind of into the whole like just blue wall there. That's very interesting. It's a nice style of build.
And then we've got Deadpool and Spiderman, and I think that these ladies, if I'm not mistaken, these ladies cosplayed these characters today. So we've got a matching theme going on there between their art and their cosplay.
I think you're right. Yeah, that's cool. And then Jay and Naya, so Ninjago mosaic, a Mandalorian skull. And then I think we finished out with a couple of Bill Ward's builds here. So you got the cool bear there, and then the rooster is actually kind of the Portuguese symbol. He had that at a convention in Portugal last year, so that's pretty cool. So we'll move out here, and it looks like Boone is all set for the next build back here. There you go. I think you look good in the spaceman section there.
Oh well, Benny is one of my favorites, so I'll always be willing to play a Benny. Space Jump!
There you go. And then art around here, so we'll show all of this. We can start here if we want with the roses, which these are just incredible. This was a collaborative, I think, with several members of Portlug, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's correct. They put this together about a year ago. I think the first time I saw it was at Rose City Comic Con, but I think it might have been built for one of the local Portland events, not a Lego event, but a sort of a community event, and they brought these, the Rose Festival, that's what it was for, the Portland Rose Festival, and they built these.
Yeah, and these are so cool. I love what they've done with the tools all around it and everything, even the gravel, and then the rose design and the whole bush design there is really amazing. In front of that, we've got some of Brian D'Augustine's basically like build up 3-4 times normal size Lego pieces here, and so you recognize cheese slopes and all sorts of other Lego pieces that you aren't used to seeing in nearly that large a size. So it's kind of a unique take on what the regular pieces everybody uses here.
I love his brick separator. I think this is the first time I've noticed the brick separator in this scale from Brian.
And that's like the classic, like original one, isn't it? Yeah, I think so.
The gray, would have been the old gray.
Got a lot of smaller scenes along here, some little vignettes and stuff. all sorts of little fun detail. I like the hot dog man out there with the attracting attention to the stand.
And then there's a nice looking house back here with like a fortress next to it and a dinosaur, and they're thinking, wish my neighbor had a dog.
That's right. They got stuck next to the dinosaur pen. And then over here is a whole bunch of little tiny Hamilton vignettes from Hamilton, the musical. So I think it goes through like the whole Hamilton story there. If anyone's listened to the music or seen the play, I'm sure you're familiar with some of these scenes here, and you can recognize like King George III and all of that there.
And that minifig looks spot on when the actor comes out and does the song as King George, and it looks exactly like that minifig. What a great representation.
Mm-hmm. Cool tiger head next to that. Here's a build by Paul Hetherington, his party animals. So I think he's had this around for a little while, but this is kind of something he started doing a few shows back, and gets all these cool Lego animals and his old-fashioned car there. I like that. I don't know, the useful beasties? I don't know what that is from exactly, but those guys are interesting. Some Portland art, some Transclear stuff. I always love the sort of stained glass window effect you can get with all the Transclear pieces. And some...
So the thorns and the timbers are the local football or American soccer teams here. Thorns are the ladies and timbers are the men. And we get pretty rowdy here in Portland at a Thorns or a Timbers game.
There you go. So, local sports representation. You've got a little Abe Lincoln here. And then this is an interesting project laid out by Alice Finch at the show, which is a world map with every country actually labeled with, I think, printed tiles there, which is pretty amazing. One for every country. And basically, she has the black 1x1 studs, and you place those on kind of your country of origin, or like where your family immigrated from to the U.S. is basically the goal. So that's pretty cool. Obviously, you see a lot in Europe, which makes sense here for the show, and then some in other countries throughout the world as well. But I think it's an interesting idea.
And it looks to me like the gold studs are representing the national borders. That's pretty neat, especially in Africa, the continent of Africa there. They are pretty intricate.
Yes, yeah, so it can get mixed up quickly there, just like actual borders with all the lines going every which direction. But yeah, it's an interesting idea there. Here's a build I really like. This is Mount Rushmore. So not something you see done with Lego a lot, but I think the faces are very interesting. The different pieces used and everything, the expressions on the faces are pretty cool.
I think the best representation there, in my opinion, is Roosevelt. Probably the glasses and the mustache. It just reads to me as President Roosevelt there. But they all look great. Very
representative of it. Then Paul Hetherington again with Love is Stronger Than Hate there. And then Lige Armstrong has this Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, so that's pretty cool. The like busts of those characters. Very bright and colorful. So that, I think, ends the art section. Next, we'll go ahead and do space, and then I think a few other themes all around here. And the first build we come to is this massive layout by Austin and Pamela Henry Biscup. We featured their collaborative several times on the channel. Incredible stuff that they do together, like a mother-son building team there. I just think that's so awesome how talented they are working together. And there's so much that you can look at here forever. There's so much detail that catches your eye in this build. And the monorail. I mean, monorail's awesome as well.
Austin was telling me that there are 6 unique monorail circuits in this build. So if you count sort of the beginning and end or the continual track pieces, there are 6 different routes that different monorails can take in this build.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much going on. We did a video with them at this, I believe, at BrickCon last year, so that's up on the channel if anyone wants to check out a more in-depth look at that build and all the different moving parts and stuff.
I think this is really exciting. I told Jason Ruff had his 3X Starfleet Voyager at Rose City Comic Con, and I told him that I thought it was my favorite mock that I had seen all year, just because it's such an iconic, and he's done such a unique thing here with the 3 times build, and then he has pulled all these other builders into this sort of theme, into this sub-theme here, and they've really done a bang-up job with this, and in just in the last 6 months, really kind of starting a new standard for this new thing that other people can join in on. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, it's so cool, and I love when I talked to them earlier about this. Their enthusiasm for it is so great as well, because they're building this stuff from when they were younger and when kids and everything, and so that they're really enthusiastic about it and just love seeing it in like a larger scale. So like brings it up to the size they are now and takes them back to their childhood.
Right. Yeah, I remember Jason telling me that he wanted the Starfleet Voyager in a size now that he felt it was when he was a little kid. Yeah, so it's just kind of awesome.
Here's a cool, so this is, I think, Life on Mars inspired, which kind of introduced the whole like pumping action there, and then the tubes to move aliens through and stuff. So you don't see a lot from this theme at shows. So this is kind of a cool, smaller layout. There was just a massive layout of this theme at Brickworld Indie last weekend that we saw, that we'll have a video up on. But yeah, it's cool to see. I look, because the colors are so cool with the red and orangish like that. You can make some really cool layouts. And then we've got, I think, a build called, this is Deployment here, so the nice like orange and white spaceship. And then a Doug Hughes build here is so cool. This is from Titanfall 2. Now when it's actually, everything's moving, it's even cooler. But it's just so much like very cool small details and stuff in there. And if you've played Titanfall, you recognize the Titans and everything from it. But I also, one thing that always stands out to me is this construction zone area right there, because I feel like it adds a level of detail and some depth to just the normal like gray area.
And again, with the theme of this week's convention, the some assembly required is kind of what those guys remind me of there. And I absolutely love this trans-clear wall with the cheese wedges that sort of give it that angle at the top. I think that's just a fantastic technique there.
Mm-hmm. Next to that, brick separatist, something like that. There's a lot of brick separators here. So this was actually done, I think, Brett Hooper. So shout out to Brett. I think we've seen some of his other builds on the tour here. So I like anything that incorporates brick separators like that is pretty cool.
Yeah, Brett is from my town in Troutdale, Oregon. He lives just down the street from me, and we love to build together as often as possible.
There you go. Troutdale represent here in Oregon. And I like that. Yeah, little black build there. You got some smaller spaceships and whole like Star Destroyer fleets all around here.
So these dark ships here, the black and red, I was talking to Robert, and he said that the dark fleet here, this ship, is the same ship as the littler ship that's floating up above the Dark Sun Star Destroyer. They're just in different scales. So he built this one first and wanted to build the larger one, but didn't want to build it in the scale that he would have to build it. So he built a duplicate of his original ship in a smaller scale so he could then build the bigger ship in a different scale.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so it keeps everything in the same scale there. I like that. Got an asteroid explorer and an Earth 2035, kind of a futuristic build there. Then here we come to a bunch of these sort of like beetle type creatures. Some of them have like people inside them. There are missiles. There's like weapons, all sorts of stuff going on.
Yeah, these are Jason Ruff's, right?
I think so.
And we've seen these beetles placed around. He likes to go around to other builders and bug their builds. So you might hear them say, "I got bugged."
There you go. This is the ISS Mischief by Christian Benito. We'll see another one of his cool ships here as well. So this is just really impressive. At first it looks very boxy, but talking to him earlier and he was kind of taking it apart for us, there's actually like a whole bunch of interior in there and all sorts of different compartments and ships that come out and stuff. So it's very colorful and boxy on the outside, but there's a really cool interior as well. Here's the steampunk section. So you've got the Steam Express train, a big kind of much more bulkier metal beard. I like that. And then this really great gunship with the old adventures like Johnny Thunder blimp at the top there. And in the back, I think that's giant Nemo's Nautilus there. So like a giant submarine in the back there, which is just so cool.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of, what was that movie where I don't know if this is from the movie, but it just reminds me of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I think there was this big submarine.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. Definitely in that same vein. And here's kind of a steamboat sort of thing, paddle wheel boat. I like that with the gold fences and everything. And then if we move around the corner here, I think it's the like steampunk city layout. And so this is like a train city layout, but all steampunk. And so you've got the cool gold, like 2x2 round pieces and all the different interesting steampunk buildings.
So this is a local collaborative that they call Streets of Brass for the steam. So this is the steampunk collaborative.
I like that there. And all the vehicles and stuff are so fun to look at on the steampunk layouts. There's a lot going on there.
Didn't we see the Eurus Vengeance from Christian in a different
I think we might have shown that, yeah. So I think some builds have been moved around because we are recording this a day later to finish it out. And I think they might have moved some builds around just to distribute things better. But this is certainly worth showing again because it's incredible. And once again, took a closer look at this today and he took it apart and there's tons of interior and stuff in there. So as cool as the outside is, the inside is even cooler on that stuff. And then this is some Nexo Knights inspired stuff, I think.
Yeah, and this is actually intended to be like an entire fortress. Each of those modules is on legs. So if you can imagine, this is sort of like a fortress that is a mech and can sort of scuttle along together and get from one place to another.
Mm-hmm. And some smaller mechs all along here. Some Powerpuff Girl mechs. And then I think some Transformers here that I believe actually transform.
Yeah, I love these little Transformers. I remember I had a Soundwave when I was a kid, and he's represented there, and especially his blaster is just spot on.
Yeah, it's amazing. That stuff like that is just amazing what you can do with Lego with being able to transform and everything. I think it's so cool. So some smaller micro stuff and mechs here. And then coming around here, this is Blair Archer. I love this build that he did here of this kind of walker with the missiles shooting out and everything and the old like rundown road. I think that's very cool.
It's really convincing. It looks like something that could exist to me.
Right. 50, 100 years from now, that's what we'll be fighting with. Some more mechs all along here. I like particularly this one here, the Let's Be Friends or Else by Eric Wilson. So it's got some Friends characters and Friends inspired builds. And then the Duplo heads in the back there is pretty cool as well. Done by the man who has this giant build next to him as well. But those Duplo brick separator operation going on is pretty sweet.
Yeah, I love the gas mask on the front of the monkey face. I fell in love with that the moment I saw it.
And then next to that, this massive layout by Mark. And how do you pronounce his last name?
Cruikshank. Mark Cruikshank.
Okay, gotcha.
And his wife is Megan. And another group from Troutdale. So I'm pretty proud of them in this City Mech division. Lots going on. Lots to see here.
There is a whole lot, and we'll definitely have a more in-depth video that we'll record with them on this and show all the little details. But you can see there's lights and like welders going on. There's big mechs. They have signs. They actually have their own T-shirts they made, which is super cool. So there's like people walking around the show with these like City Mech T-shirts. So yeah, it's just a really cool, massive build here. And then moving down the line, I think we've got like a sort of mech race happening here. It would appear different types of vehicles and walkers and things like that in a big race with obstacles and a track laid out with the orange kind of triangle pieces.
One of my favorite things about this mech race is Christian's motorcycle here, and he's got his pilot in the same position in the mech that the mech is assuming on the motorcycle, if that makes sense. So you can kind of imagine the minifig kind of riding inside the mech, making the motions that the mech is making on the giant motorcycle.
It's like the minifig within the mech riding the motorcycle. I like that. And then Jonathan Walker's ships here are incredible. He's such a talented spaceship builder. We showed the green one there last year. He's got this new black triangle one. It's just amazing. There's so many triangles and crazy shapes in there that you don't normally see with Lego. That's really cool.
Well, and I've heard a number of people say that this, from a style standpoint, is a bit of a departure for Jonathan, and a lot of people really, really enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And of course, that is it Shadowcaster just takes people's breath away with the curves,
right?
And people really enjoy the color scheme as well.
That doesn't look like something you should be able to do with Lego, but he somehow does it.
Right.
Next to this, the Brick Rogers layout, which is very cool. I think you definitely had a hand in this, kind of a collaborative with you and some of the other Troutdale builders here.
Yeah, so this was Mark Crookshank, Brett Hooper, Perry Wang, and myself. And this has been living in my garage for the last several months. The first thing we built the whole thing is based on the Series 17 retro spaceman minifigure, and the first thing we built there was the rocket ship, and then everything else just kind of came together.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Get the monorail and everything going on there. Giant spaceship next to that is the Odysseus, and the ring there that you see around the ship actually moves. So during the public time today, it was actually moving around, which is just crazy. This thing's massive, and I'm sure not super easy to set up and move around, but it's very impressive when it's on display. And then we come into a whole bunch of different spaceships, some inspired by like classic space looks with the blue and gray. I like the one in the very back there is a very unique take on the usual space design with like the thin middle part there.
Yeah, so each of these three are done in 3 scales. One is the original set, one is a smaller version of that set, and then one is a larger sort of, you might say neoclassic reinterpretation of the set. And that's done with all 3 of these classic space ships here.
There you go. I think that looks very cool. Do you know, is that the same builder for all? It's like 3 different ships that was done with?
I know the back 2 are both Jason Ruff, and I'm pretty sure the front one is as well. I could be wrong.
Mm-hmm. And then here's BB-8, I think, in classic space-looking colors.
So they're calling it BB-78 here to kind of throw back to, the early years of Lego Classic Space.
There you go, yeah. Some big space battles happening here. So with classic space, you don't normally see a lot of like big battle layouts, so it's kind of unusual to have like a lot of factions warring. It's more of the peaceful space theme, but see the like drop ship going on there with the black Tron ambush. And then I like another like ring spaceship in the back there as well. It's very cool. So I think that about finishes out the space section for us here. One quick thing is this joust here, which is very interesting. So it's like jousting on, there appears to be some kind of like bird creature in space, possibly. I'm not entirely sure what's going on there.
Well, the original Joust video game, I think they were on like ostrich type creatures, so maybe they're doing something similar to that here. And the card just does say Joust, so perhaps this is just James's take on that original game. And it looks like one person is doing really well based on the score here, and the other person is just dead.
There you go. That works. So we'll move out of this section then and come on around to, I believe, Town and Train. Big section of Town and Train here with all sorts of cool buildings. Get the cameraman in here, and start showing what's going on here.
Looks like we've got a classic car show going on in this street. Some neat little roadster builds and spectators up and down the street looking at the cars.
I like this arcade next to it with the big Mario built into the wall. That's cool. It's like almost like graffiti on the wall there of the arcade.
Yeah, that's another Brett Hooper. He's got a handful of neat little arcade games inside the arcade that he's built just out of, various kind of like Lego City pieces. They're pretty cool looking.
And then a big Friends kind of playground area over here, very colorful. I love all the colors there and all the fun Friends tiles and pieces and everything. I think that's a really good use of those pieces.
This looks so good to me for some reason. I just want to go there. I want that to exist. I want to take my daughters there, and that's it.
I can just imagine you and your daughters there having a blast. The very crowded build. So this is on the march. It appears to be like a sort of a protest march. That appears to be the case here, and you get kind of the forced perspective of the city in the background. And then here's a Fabuland condo next to that. So Fabuland is one of those themes that you don't see a ton of, but it kind of pops up in random strange places, and people do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. But it's like all animal creatures, so there's a lot of strange things that it kind of lends itself to with that type of figure. I like that. Rounding the corner here, got a cool sort of corner building, and then a bank. And some more of the city USPS. There's a nice beach barbecue. It appears this is a very interesting build here.
We got some cannibals.
Well, is it cannibals? Because it's Jack Stone and regular minifigs.
Oh,
so
okay, so I guess it's not. It's the food chain.
Yes. It's Jack Stone at the top of the food chain barbecuing normal minifigs there, and apparently enjoying themselves. Beautiful gardens. That's quite the build there.
There's a broken minifig torso, and one of the Jack Stone figures is cutting into it with a knife. Oh boy. I'm gonna be honest, that's a morbid build.
That is something.
But we're both laughing.
So I guess it works. And then here we enter into almost every convention has some section like this with just a dozen train tracks deep of some incredible trains, and they're all so close together here that it's almost hard to appreciate all of them, but there's just amazing trains in here. Here's the Amtrak Cascades, which I think is the one that runs through Oregon up to Canada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Okay, I think that's the case. I think I was talking to someone earlier who said that the green and brown one there is the one that runs from Oregon up to Canada, if I'm not mistaken. But I also like this green and orange one in front here as well. I think that's really cool. The train colors always stand out to me.
I love the steam engines, and I think my favorites here might be these ones with the red border around the windows. I just love the black and the gray and the red. It's just such a neat color scheme, in my opinion. But all of the ones that are emulating steam locomotives there are just pretty slick.
And some people do custom printing or custom decals on them to add that extra level of detail. So there's lots of cool stuff you can do. And leaving the train behind, we've got a big sort of camping layout here. So it's a nice mountain build up with the tunnel going through the mountain, and then all sorts of mix of brick built and normal Lego cloth tents, and some very impressive giant trees as well. I like all the trees.
So Alan has been working on this camp for a number of years, and it just gets a little bit different, a little bit bigger every year, and a little bit more impressive. And I definitely remember from a few years ago, and this thing has really gotten pretty awesome.
Yes, and the very nicely built river and the covered bridge. I love that covered bridge there. And then here is sort of a dinosaur, populated area with the bat tumbler.
Yeah, that's interesting. He's there to, I guess, either defend the dinosaurs or defend against the dinosaurs.
It would appear the dinosaurs have like sort of captured the humans here. That's like General Custer or something there. I'm not sure what's happening in the fences.
And we got a T-Rex infiltrating the livestock area. That's not going to go well.
And Tonto just sitting there in the middle of the bushes with the horses. So that's quite interesting. It's the Brick City Brewery. I like the curved building there. That's
the structure supports that are holding it up. I mean, that's just such a neat looking thing.
next to like a little hot dog place there being invaded by Daleks and various other Doctor Who characters. Come over here, you got some cool cars, like a nice little eating area there, some food trucks and things.
I love this Pizza Planet food truck. They've taken, parts from the Toy Story Pizza Planet build and turned them into a Pizza Planet food truck. It's got to be my favorite food truck.
There you go. Some nice semi-truck work along here as well, so it's not just smaller vehicles. You get semi-trucks and everything. And all sorts of fun vehicles. I like this UPS truck over here. It's very nice with the Palace Cinema behind it. And some really detailed, I think, fire engines here that are just really, really impressive with the level of and little pieces and everything on there. Building the ladders and stuff is very nice. And then a larger Palace Cinema, I think, as well. So that's someone that's kind of expanded on it in the corner there. And a couple of my favorite vehicles, this is like spy truck, so it looks like a pizza truck, but then you can actually, the other one shows what's inside, and it's all the spy equipment and everything and computer equipment. So it looks like a pizza truck driving around, but it's actually not, and I think that's cool. Shout out to the City Museum. Make sure you visit your local museums, people. There's all sorts of cool things you can find in there. Classic Octane gas station. Motorcycle company. It looks like you got like BMW, all sorts of. This is the fancy, expensive vehicle area. Some nice modular buildings here. And I think that takes us back to where we started in Town and Train. So we'll make our way out of here and I think over to the Star Wars mixed section. While we're headed that way, we can mention a couple things to our right. There's this sort of derby track, and so you can build Lego cars and race them down there, so that's a fun activity. There's a kid zone and a play area, so that's stuff for like when the public's here, activities for them to do. Then you can see all around, basically the outside walls is the vendors, and so at this show, vendors are all located on the outside as people can shop around. So we'll start in here then with the Star Wars section. There's some really great Star Wars stuff at this show, just like there is at most LEGO shows, because Star Wars is very popular. So get that bar back in place there. What do we have first here, Boone? It looks like we've got a variety of Slave Ones.
So the Slave One in the back there is the official set, and the one up front here is a scale version done by Jacob Sandovich, and I'm really impressed with it because I feel like the UCS Slave One in the back there is one of the only excellent executions in official LEGO sets of the Slave One, and Jacob has done a really fantastic job here with this scaled to the microfig Boba Fett.
Yeah, Jacob has taken several different Star Wars vehicles and made them at different scales, which is really cool. So we'll see a lot of his stuff as we go around this square right now. You can see his Red 5 next to that, the same micro fig scale. And then a Star Wars version of a P-38, like World War II fighter there, which I think is really awesome as well. And the tie-dye fighter next to that. Some brighter colors. And then Fabuland Wars. So like I mentioned earlier, Fabuland lends itself to a lot of crazy stuff. So this is Star Wars Fabuland. And something that stands out to me as I was walking around earlier was that very detailed, that like building there. It looks like there's like a droid fight taking place in front of it, but I think I love what they've done with the building and like the windows and stuff in the background there. Some great details.
Yeah, I like how they used the wheel wells, like the fender pieces, on their side for texture on the door, and how they've connected it to continue those white lines that they've built with plates. That's a great little parts usage.
And then here is a Naboo starfighter at Technic scales, like Technic Fig scale, even larger there. And then to the right we've got the chicken coop as well, which is at down to the micro scale again, so always changing levels of building there. And then is that a Jawa, I think, next to it there?
Yeah.
There you go. I like that. And behind it you can see the official UCS Star Wars Millennium Falcon, and then Austin Henry Biscup's massive, I don't even know what scale you want to call this incredible beast here.
Well, I think he would describe it as like closer to actual minifig scale. I still imagine it probably isn't, but yeah, if you've seen the inside of this thing, he's just done a really fantastic job detailing the interior, and I absolutely love all of the curves in the tubing that he's put on the top of the Millennium Falcon here, and just all the little greebling, as they would call it in the Star Wars prop building universe. I guess that has bled into Lego, hasn't it? Greebles.
Yes, I think that's one of those words that you hear a lot in the Lego community that you don't hear a lot in other places. In the Davidson Center for Space Exploration, so I think this might be in Alabama, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if the mock card says it there. Yeah, Huntsville. So you've got the whole space exploration set up there. I like that. Then you've got the cancer ribbon here, the finished cancer sign. And next to that, we've got, appears to be some, like a SWAT team, appears to be like arming themselves for some serious operation. Or maybe they're just taking a photo. It looks like there's a photographer out front there, so maybe they're just taking a photo. This elf Sprite Cottage, I think, is so cool. The way that they built the almost like mushroom-looking house there, and the plants is really impressive.
Yeah, Robert showed me some pictures of this when he first had some of the mushroom done, and how it's turned out. Just the texture, the slopes that he's worked in using those plates as the land sort of comes down to the beach and then out to the ocean, and of course those giant leaves that are built with plates and studs and round bricks. Just really, really neat looking.
Mm-hmm. And then Sean Snyder's owl next to that is very impressive. Just such a perfect rendition. The way he got all the different angled feathers and stuff, and the eyes, the face is really amazing. That's just a great build. Then here's like a submarine and the kind of a cool underwater scene. It looks like the Kraken might be getting a hold of that. Things are not going so well for that submarine. We've got Santa and the reindeer next to that. And then a build in the back there that I think is really awesome. I have mentioned before how much I love the Fort Legorado set. And so Brett Hooper, who we've mentioned now a couple times, did this really cool build called How the West Was Won, where it's like a cavalryman racing an Indian in a canoe in front of the fort there with the teepee set up. So I just think that's like a really funny take on that build, and incorporating the old Western theme, which is the best theme Lego has ever made, is just amazing. So I think that's great. Then next, this build in front here is like a man-made roller coaster.
It's really wild. It kind of weirds me out. But it also kind of reminds me of the end of the end of the Lego movie, the end of the Batman movie, where they have
Batman,
Batman,
yes.
Lego movie where they have to kind of click together to pull Gotham City back together. That's kind of what this reminds me of.
And then the back of volcanic eruption there, so I think that's kind of cool. The way they did all the trains clear pieces to get that eruption, I think is really impressive.
Yeah, they used just about as many different trans clear elements as they could in that lava eruption, didn't they?
Then another one of Christian's builds here is Day of the Living Teal. So teal is one of those kind of legendary colors in the community that was dead for so long and just recently came back with the diner set. And so I think he's kind of incorporated some of that cool teal stuff into this build.
And that bear is, I believe, a Scala bear. And there was a Portlug meeting where someone had a whole bag of Scala bears, and they came from Lego and, you know, some sort of bulk thing, and nobody wanted them, so they were distributed to each member of the lug. So each one of us has one of those little weird Scala bears.
There you go. And then this next build is a big layout, I believe, by Perry Wang. So he's got all sorts of cool stuff incorporated in here, different colored lights, the monorail, all in like sort of an Arctic setting.
Yeah, so all of this is intended to be like a theme park ride, and you can see all the people walking in through the queue to get on the ride. And so there's sort of the exterior and the interior. And one of my favorite things is the Wampa that is escaping from the back of the ride, and it seems the fire department has shown up to try to remedy that situation.
Next door, we have something that I think you can definitely lend some expertise here, which I think is such a great idea. I want to definitely point out the poster in the back there, kind of the logo for this, but you can talk about the build some more.
Yeah, sure. So I had some Duplo cars that I had picked up at a yard sale and didn't know what to do with them. And Mark Cruikshank is really into sort of, you know, apocalyptic Mad Max. You know, we did the Ready Player One, and he's into the mechs. And I said, what if we take these Duplo cars and, you know, use system and Technic and trick them out to look like sort of Mad Max, like Fury Road kind of cars. And the very next day, he had sent me a picture of the first one that he had done, which was the green Octane Duplo car out here. And it was like, at that moment, we were like, yes, this is a thing. This is worth doing. And speaking of the Scala bear, you see that Perry has one strapped to the front of his Dupocalypse vehicle there.
This is so good. This build just, you know, keeps on giving the more you look at it. After all the details, just that like mashup of Duplo and Apocalypse is brilliant. I think that's a good idea. Great idea you had there. And then the series of builds next to that is all based on the official Bricks Cascade 2018 kit. And so they have like a convention kit, and then these are all modded out in different ways. I think my favorite right now is the IKEA there with all the puzzled expressions of figuring out, like I think they have like a saw out and figuring out how to put everything together. I like that.
Yeah, no, I just got to mention Victor's there, the very first one. You know, the standard kit came with a brick-built conveyor belt, and he took it home that night and built an actual Power Functions conveyor belt that rolls around there.
Next, we have the Jungle book, and so this has like the actual book build here, as well as the jungle and all of the characters built within that. So I love that idea.
Yeah, also by Brett.
And then a whole bunch of more Star Wars builds here. So you've got Beach Invasion. You've got, looks like a walker that's been taken over by the forest there. Small Lars Homestead, Battle of Endor. A few great builds by Ian Heath here. I particularly like his Porg, the other white meat build. I think that's some classic Ian work right there. I think that's really great. And Byrne noticed a Star Wars story as well. Great work there. Battle of Scarif. So lots of different takes on the Battle of Scarif. This is Kevin Warner's version of it with the nice little bridge over the water there, and then some really cool palm trees with, I don't even know how many leaves are on each of those palm trees, but a lot of detail in there.
My favorite thing about this one is how you can look under the surface of the water and see the fish and the rocks and stuff that are down there on the, you know, underneath the water.
Mm-hmm. Rounding the corner here, almost done with the Star Wars section. Got the Death Star Resort. Kind of people having lots of fun swimming, all sorts of fun stuff there. And then Battle of Carousel, I believe this is here. So really great kind of rock work with the opening in the rock there, getting those slopes going in all different directions to make that look nice. Then the big lava, I believe that conveyor belt of lava actually moves when this build is turned on and everything.
Yeah, so there we have the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin as Anakin is about to become Vader.
There you go. And Rancor encounter, I love this tiny micro fake version of the Rancor encounter. That's you never see it built at that scale, so I think that's really unique. And then a giant version pod racer here as well.
So this is also the Technic figure scale. Jacob opened up the cockpit of this pod racer for me, and he's got a Technic figure in there. And I just absolutely love the detail on this thing. And he was telling me that it is inspired by Anakin's pod racer, but it is sort of his own design, and I just think it's fabulous.
And another take on the Battle of Scarif. This is more of like a more zoomed in look at just kind of one smaller island here, as all of the clones and everyone march out. I like that. And then the Mos Eisley Cantina. It's even got the famous music going here. So all the recognizable characters, everything going on.
And I love the classic space minifigs in the cantina, and another panda.
Yes, never have too many of those.
There's been a lot of pandas in the Star Wars universe at this convention.
I like Octu Island Adventures here. So this is from the latest Star Wars movie, which you haven't seen. Haven't seen a whole lot of builds popping up yet. I think people are still taking their time building some of the scenes from the latest Star Wars movie. But I have seen a few versions of kind of Luke's island home here. So you can see Chewie down there with the Porg, and then Luke. And yeah, I like that there. It's some great detail. So then we'll move on from Star Wars and Mix, and I think we're getting close to the end here. Now this next section, I don't know if this is this all one lug here? It looks like it's the Ridgefield Brick-Built Trains Club. So that's who did this whole kind of train city layout. First thing that catches my eyes, a few London landmarks. So you've got Tower Bridge, sort of modified there to have the trains coming through. Then you've got Trafalgar Square with the Nelson statue on top, which I think is really cool. And all of the London guards there. And then coming over here, looks like we've got some type of arena. Is there, I think, some soccer happening inside there, different levels of stands. And then the city pool build, I think we've shown this before. I know I've seen this build before at different conventions, but it's so cool. I love how they built that like kind of on top of the building there. And some more great older architecture, like a train station build there. And a motorcycle shop. The giant donut is pretty great. Another nice beach scene as well. And I think a sand green bridge in the background is very impressive. What else do we have around here? Some trains. Got some more colorful trains. All different engines and everything. Yeah, that one with the stars and stripes there is a very unique train design. You don't see a lot of trains that look like that. Oh, and the Seahawks one. That's very cool. I like this. I've always thought the Seahawks colors are pretty awesome, so I think that would make a cool train design.
Yeah, a lot of Seahawks fans. In Portland, we don't have a professional football team, so a lot of people follow Seattle's team here.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. There you go. You got the Rock Ridge Community Church.
Is this another Chili's? This is another Chili's.
They just had to rub it in on you.
Rub it in that we don't have Chili's anymore.
I'm sorry, Boone. Come to Indiana. We still have Chili's. And looks like they've got sort of a construction or train depot area there. Then a whole racetrack area.
Looks like a trolley. A little trolley on the racetrack. That's nice looking. Mm-hmm. I love how they've mixed all these different bricks for their stanchions. that's useful as a builder because you can sort of stretch your parts out, but it also is just kind of a neat eclectic look, and I feel like it goes well with the rest of the color scheme that they've got going on in the middle of this track here.
For sure. And then here's a bunch of the same vehicle in different colors with a bunch of R2-D2s. So it looks like maybe they're building the vehicles, like they're in the factory there building these different vehicles. That's interesting.
I'm trying to figure out if it's like a pun that I'm just not recognizing. Some of VW...
Droid Factory?
Droid Factory, is that it? Wolfsburg.
Maybe we're just reading into it too much and it's just a bunch of R2-D2s. But that finishes out that section, so I think there's one last section we want to show you just to make sure we cover absolutely everything and try to be as complete as possible. We'll show you I think this is mostly the micro scale section over here by the architecture stuff, and then I think that will complete the whole show floor tour for Bricks Cascade here. So make our way over and see what we can show you. We can just start right here at this end and head down to the left with lots of tiny micro scale builds here. It looks like we've got some more brick separator action going on there. I like that. And then I think, is that a Rock Raiders inspired build, kind of micro version? The mini tunnel transporter there, it looks like with the older teal look. I think that might be what that's from.
Yeah, that's cool. That's such a great color.
Mm-hmm. That whole theme was really neat. And down here is downtown Portland. So it's 1 to 1,000 scale. So anyone who's watching this in the local area, I'm sure will recognize many of the buildings and other landmarks throughout the Portland area here. Can you find your house on here, Boone?
No, unfortunately, I live too far from downtown to find my house on this particular map.
That is unfortunate, but it's a great looking city here. Shout out to Victor. Okay, this is very meta. They're live streaming as we're recording, That's what it's all about. Okay. Then here is just kind of a general downtown build. It's got the red fortress there is pretty cool. I like that big castle type build. It's got the whole bay with the shipping containers and everything. Lots of fun so many details to look at in Micropolis. There's so much you can find. It's about the design on that black building. Was that a bunch of cheese slopes, I think?
Yeah, and a few, maybe it is all cheese slopes. What is that? It's like a castle on the bottom and a fuzzy something on top.
But yeah, stuff like that. It's cool. Some more smaller details and everything along here. Neuschwanstein, the castle at any scale is incredible. I think people have built this at pretty much every scale imaginable over the years, and they're all impressive because it's such a cool looking castle. So I always like seeing those models. Here we've got a Monastery and Lighthouse display. And then in the back there is Alice Finch's micro Hogwarts. So you can see the photo of the giant Hogwarts that she is most famous for building. But she's taken a micro Hogwarts around to some shows recently, especially the international shows that she can't quite bring the massive thing to.
I definitely want to point out this. I think this looks like a GBC, but the spirals that push the balls up the ramp are actually minifig hands stacked one on top of each other in a spiral connection called many, many, many hands make light work.
I like that. Yeah, watching that run earlier was just really cool, seeing how all those hands push the balls up like that onto the machine. So I think that might complete the whole convention floor for us tonight, Boone. I think took us 2 days, but we completed showing everything.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think I take a little bit of pride in this con because it's my local con, and I'm just really proud of the people who brought such awesome builds. And thank you so much for joining us here.
Yeah, thank you. It's always a pleasure coming out here to Portland and seeing everything that all the great builders bring to Bricks Cascade every year. So lots of incredible stuff that as we showed you on the tour, and as we mentioned, a lot of these builds, we have more in-depth videos on the channel as well, so we'll look out for those if you want to see more interviews with some of the builders here at Bricks Cascade. Thanks for watching, everybody, and thank you, Boone, for doing the tour with me.
Thanks for having me, Joshua.